For me to expose my vitiligo took me a lot of time to find comfort and safety and self-love. I was achieving and very successful academically, dancing, I was a beauty queen, so much achievement. But that achievement and confidence didn't equate to skill sets.
Then were personally mentored by Sri Ravi Shankar. So that obviously brought a lot into your whole approach.
Absolutely, absolutely. What a game changer when an enlightened master comes into your life. All the time I said no when my body was, all the time I said yes rather when my body was screaming no. All the time I tried to please and fit in and create resistance inside actually surfaced on my skin. It challenged my sense of desirability, my sense of, beauty. It forced me to reframe beauty, and that was the blessing.
When what is perfection,
Perfection is a lie.
Yeah.
Perfection is poison. So throughout the day, Anushka, suppose I have negative self-chatter, I'm saying negative things to myself. I just have to snap and say stop. So once you do it enough, the brain overwrites the patterns that we have.
What about breath work? That, of course, you talk about
breath
that.
is that beautiful connecting link to the mind and body, and breath brings us from the outer world of activity to the inner world of silence, and that's how I shifted my focus inward.
One or two simple practices or sadhanas to help us anchor within.
I think sit with yourself. I think it's very hard for people to sit with themselves quiet, because we've been told that sitting alone, being alone is like a punishment. It's like you're not wanted somewhere else. The fear of being judged, the fear of being not accepted, not liked was greater than valuing that individual uniqueness.
What are you afraid of? What do you care what they say? Because you already said, say whatever you want about
I've got me.
Yeah.
I've got my back. I'm my best cheerleader. I'm my best, supporter.
Hello and welcome to Buzz by the Bay. I'm Anushka Jaktiani, and every week we bring you experts who can enhance your sense of well-being. Until about 20 years ago, the concept of a life coach was still fairly alien to us. Most Indian families just relied on the blessings of their religious gurus at every critical juncture of life. Nowadays, people still have their Gurujis, but in addition, they also have life coaches who play a more active role in their transformation. Our guest on this episode is a certified coach and an art of living teacher who has just authored a book based on her own extensive experience of coaching and on her life journey, which is an intriguing one. Very pleased to have with us Leena Gupta to talk about how we can acquire skills to anchor within. Welcome on the show, Leena.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful to meet you, and I was going through your book, Anchor Within.
Yes.
And you make it very personal, and there are some great techniques actually.
Thank you so much. I was hoping to achieve that.
No, you have, and you just released it this February.
Yes.
And after a lot of experience and 2 decades of art of living teaching.
Yes.
So, this term life coach, first if we can just dwell on that, it's, at least for us here in India, it's a relatively new concept, right? We've always had spiritual gurus who lead us. I mean, in my understanding, I feel a life coach is a combination of a guru and a therapist and a career counselor, like everything rolled into one.
Okay, right.
Would you say that that's...
So, I think that spirituality is beautiful, and that's the basis of my book as well. But what's really important is the 3P approach. And I, in my own life, have realized there's wisdom everywhere. We have so much wisdom through our gurus, our parents, our grandparents. But I feel wisdom without tools becomes information. It just goes over our head. And this is what I felt was missing. I felt that wisdom was important, so that's philosophy. What about the psychology? We need to know a little bit about human nature, our tendencies, and then we can understand how the mind works, where it resists it, where it is resisting things, where it's clinging on to the negative. So philosophy, psychology, and practicality. So wisdom plus tools equals transformation. Wisdom minus tools equals information.
Okay, 3 Ps. I
Yes.
like that. Philosophy, psychology, and practicality. Lovely. And I want to discuss some of the techniques. Of course, you give 10 life lessons in your book. We'll at least try and touch on a couple of them. But what would you say? So, is that your USP as a life coach? Because there are quite a few life coaches out there. What would you say is your specific USP?
Well, Anushka, definitely the 3P approach, because I feel that confluence through my own experience. I was a girl who came from New York at the age of 20. I was achieving and very successful academically, dancing, I was a beauty queen, so much achievement. But that achievement and confidence didn't equate to skill sets. I feel we missed life lessons and tools in school which would help us with our mind, our emotions, our feeling of loneliness, sadness, fear. No one told us how to handle that and reframe that or deal with it. So I struggled with it, and then I realized that, wisdom was there but no tools.
Yeah, and you also then were personally mentored by Sri Ravi Shankar. So that obviously brought a lot into your whole approach.
Absolutely, absolutely. What a game changer when an enlightened master comes into your life. And I think I prayed so much that somewhere divine calling heard me. And what he helped me to do was to shift my focus, Anushka, from the external validation that I was so used to and so many people are used to. The appreciation, the applause, the recognition. I learned to shift that and come to myself. To ask myself, I dared to ask myself, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Rather than what other people were validating for me. And that was the greatest shift to meeting myself.
So you came home to yourself.
Absolutely. Still am. Work in progress. Definitely. But wow, what a relief.
What a relief.
What a relief.
So I want to hear that story about how you met Sri. But before that, I saw a very powerful post on your Instagram where you talk about a situation, you encountered a situation that challenged your conditioning. As you said, and I know you were a crowned beauty queen in America at the age of 17. You even got chosen for Maine Pyar Kiya, opposite Salman Khan. Wow, how many people would dream of that? But then later you developed an autoimmune condition. Is that the challenge you're talking about?
So actually the movie I got, my parents didn't want me to go into the industry. So once I was chosen, they said that's not where we would like you to go. And we were obedient kids.
Wow.
but the autoimmune came as a result of a lot of stress in my years when I was in India, because there's immense change. Like I said, I didn't know how to handle that change, that anxiety. So it built up in my cells, and voila. What do you get? An autoimmune. And of course I got 3, but the visible one is vitiligo. And yes, it challenged my sense of desirability, my sense of beauty. It forced me to reframe beauty, and that was the blessing. It forced me to see that I'm not my skin, I'm not my mind, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my body. I'm so much deeper than that. I'm part of divinity, and I'm God's child, and I'm beautiful the way I am. So that was really something that cracked me open. Not just the vitiligo, but actually my heart, my soul came to feeling a lot more at home and peace.
And how long ago did you develop this autoimmune?
Say about 12 years ago.
So very recently,
yes,
actually,
yes,
fairly recently.
Yes.
But did it sort of come to a shock? Like you say, especially when you're used to being crowned a beauty queen and being chosen for Bollywood, and then to develop something like this, it shakes your world.
Absolutely shook me. But I must say that because of spirituality, I was able to turn that trigger of feeling insecure and unvalidated to reminding myself that those are all the times. The trigger turned into a reminder that all the times you didn't listen to yourself, all the time I said no when my body was, all the time I said yes rather when my body was screaming no, all the time I tried to please and fit in and create resistance inside actually surfaced on my skin.
So when you say that your body was saying, you were saying yes when your body was screaming no. In what way? What do you mean by that?
So social expectations. I was in a marriage with a joint family, and everywhere I had to fit in. So it's a challenging marriage. So there was a lot of rejection, alienation, and so dealing with that after having so much validation was difficult. And also everywhere just trying to fit in, be that good, bahu, that good girl that we are taught to be as women.
So you, in this post of yours, and you do some very impactful posts on your social media, if I may say, and you remove your makeup and you say, look, this is me and I love myself the way that I am. Yes. Okay, you look great. Of course, everybody should love themselves. But, just to recap, just to explain to the people, vitiligo is a pigmentation, it's a pigmentation issue. When the pigmentation changes of your
Yes,
skin.
it basically breaks the uniformity of your skin. There are white patches that appear, so actually melanin is not being produced by the body.
Yeah.
So your skin color goes away, basically.
Okay. Yeah, and so many people, especially in this day and age, are so focused on beauty treatments and looking absolutely perfect. When what is perfection,
Perfection is a lie.
Yeah.
Perfection is poison, and that's something Shefali Sabari says, and I love it. Perfection is something we chase, and we want to fit into it so badly that at the cost of our health. And recently I've just discovered that they're selling hyaluronic acid, all kinds of chemical peels for young adults, teenagers, by coloring them pink and lavender at beauty stores. And that is shocking because it's going to kill the skin, and more than that, it's dysmorphing the whole idea of beauty. We have to break this thing of not perfection, let's work on our presence.
I like that. Not perfection, let's work on our presence. And you do mention this in your book about how the beauty industry thrives on our own insecurities. And it's true, it's pretty shocking that yes, young teenage girls are now using things like retinol, which is what you should be using in your 40s, I mean, not as a teenager, and these things are harsh on the skin. But this whole idea of perfection is a bit of a scam, I mean, there really is nothing.
It's a scam, and it's also detrimental to mental health. There is so much depression happening in the world with the youngsters, older people, but even youngsters, because the pressure, they can't crack the pressure.
And you say in your post that, I like that you said that you are tall enough, you are thin enough, you are just enough. And that is the truth. We are enough. I mean, that's what our Shastras tell us,
Absolutely.
right? That we are enough. We don't have to look to the outside world to feel enough. We are already adequate. And that's essentially what the premise of your book is.
Yes.
That the light is within you. And
only thing is, I think what I'm sharing with the audience is how to anchor within. The book is called Anchor Within, Life Lessons and Techniques for Inner Confidence, Resilience and Happiness. So we can say that. Again, it's information unless you tell people, show people that this is what I've done to anchor myself. Even for myself, what did I do because I was so young and helpless? These are the things I did. Breathwork and meditation. Sitting with myself, just being really, really quiet. Drowning out the noise from the outside and just being with myself, no matter how uncomfortable it was. Because I don't know myself, how can I give you anything? If I don't fill my cup and like myself, I'm probably not going to like you. I'm probably going to find some criticism.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you're most critical of others at the time when you're most unhappy with yourself.
Absolutely.
That usually happens.
Yes.
In human beings,
Yes.
Coming to your book, there are many good mechanisms and techniques you talk about, but we'll touch on a few of them, and then the audience should, of course, read the book and learn the others. As you say, we have been conditioned by society and we depend too much on external validation and approval instead of going within, and anchoring ourselves from within with the techniques we already have, And I like that in your book you quote the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and other, famous inspirational people. Let's start with the assumption trap.
Okay.
That's your first chapter.
Yes.
You say we perceive our situation through the lens of past experience, which is very common. We all do that. So if you can just explain what this trap is.
Yes, so I talk about a family gathering, Anushka. We're all coming together, all different personalities, and my aunt is hosting this beautiful, scrumptious dinner. And at the end of the dinner, it's late and everybody's coming out, and as soon as my father is just about to step out of the door bangs shut. And he's suddenly alarmed and everybody's looking at each other like, what happened? It was such a beautiful night. Yes. So then I show how every personality goes into their mental stories of what it could be. So someone anxious thinks that it's them. The insecure cousin thinks that, oh, he did something wrong. The one who wants to social climb, she's thinking, I'm not going to be invited to the parties again. Why is she upset? So everybody's spinning stories based on their past. What that does is very dangerous. It strains our relationships because then we act differently in the future, not knowing the reality. So I talk about how I took a moment to just do a few deep breaths and say, wait a minute, either I get sucked into all the stories that are going on, or I actually go to my aunt and say, what happened? Let's find out the truth. And I find out that she was afraid her puppy was gonna run out the door and probably get hit, with something. So she slammed it so hard. And I said, oh my God, that was it. That's it. It was so simple, and we were here weaving tens of different stories, and thank God we didn't get sucked into it because our behavior would have changed. hence straining our relationships. So this is very important, that we come out of the assumption trap by being in the present moment.
Yeah. It's so important, right? Like you meet someone, let's say they're not greeting you
Exactly.
very warmly, and then you start saying, oh, maybe because they think I'm stupid, maybe because they think I'm not, whatever, good looking enough. Or we draw all these assumptions based on our own conditioning and our own fears and whatever we learn, through the years.
Dangerous.
And then you realize that maybe the person just had a migraine or was themselves going through such a bad day.
Perfect, yes.
So it's very important to get out of that, and which comes to the mechanism.
Yes.
You mentioned this clap snap technique, rubber band, and of course breath work. So if you can explain these.
Sure. So rubber band, I'll show you first. This is just something that is elastic, easy, convenient, economical, almost invisible if you take a different color. And what you do is just take, when you find your mind going into the past, where we spend a lot of time with anger and regret, or even glorification of the good old days, and mind also runs to the future, which is creating anxiety and worry that will it happen, will it go through, etc. What will happen to me? So when you find your mind doing that, and it will a lot during the day, you just need to snap it. Just a light snap. When that snap hits the wrist, it sends a signal to your brain through your neurotransmitters that stop. Come back to the present moment. This is where your life is. This is where you can take responsibility. This is where you can change and pivot things, right? So when you're in the present moment, you're more likely to get the real facts. So throughout the day, Anushka, suppose I have negative self-chatter. I'm saying negative things to myself. I just have to snap and say stop. So once you do it enough, the brain overwrites the patterns that we have. And the clap snap is something very simple. If you're sitting in a board meeting and you feel like you've eaten too much lunch and you're falling asleep, all you have to do is just signal to your body, clap. Because whenever you clap, you don't have to make a loud sound, but whenever you clap, it's usually when you're happy, when you're in the present moment and you're acknowledging something. So right now you're acknowledging that I'm in the present moment, and then the snap, very, very gently you just snap, just snap. Snap is what? Snap is alertness. Snap is being awake. You can't snap anywhere but the present moment. So this is a double reinforcer for you to come back to the present moment. So you can do it anywhere.
Yeah, and that's what yoga says, right? That's the only place where life exists is the present moment. It's that whole power of now.
Absolutely.
And what about breath work? That, of course, you talk about
breath is that beautiful connecting link to the mind and body. And breath brings us from the outer world of activity to the inner world of silence. And that's how I shifted my focus inward.
So what kind of breath work would you recommend for people? Let's say, you're going through a moment, you're falling into this spiral, this assumption spiral and all. How would you advise your clients?
Yeah. So what I like to teach them is something called the alternate nostril breathing. Some people know it as alom vilom. Yeah. So it's basically you're breathing out from so if I can just show you very quickly, right thumb is controlling the right nostril and the last two fingers are controlling the flap of the left nostril. So what we're going to do is breathe out from the left side, breathe in very, very gently, and then you close it and you're exhaling, inhaling again. But you're closing your eyes and you're doing this very consciously. But very, without any pressure, you're taking long inhalation. So exhale, inhale, one side at a time. These are really tapping into your nadis, your Chandra Nadi, Surya Nadi, etc. We won't get into that, but basically it's clearing pathways and it's bringing you a lot deeper into yourself, and it's elongating the breath, which is then calming the mind down. Your quality of breath influences your state of mind, and every emotion has a corresponding rhythm of breath to it.
But another interesting paragraph I read is, in your book, why we dim our own light. And I think we spoke about this earlier. People want you to be a little invisible, usually, like you said, from your own experience. They want you to look pretty but not seductive and that kind of thing. And you draw a nice analogy, the musk deer. So why do we dim our light?
It's a conditioning, very deep rooted conditioning to blend in, to fit in, to be a part of, to belong to. It's been very highlighted that if you're part of a group, you have a lot of friends, you have value. And so we've been taught that you've got to fit in. So if we have any, there are many times I remember in high school, people would have different unique qualities and they would hide it because they didn't want to be judged. The fear of being judged, the fear of being not accepted, not liked was greater than valuing that individual uniqueness. And that's something we have to highlight with our kids and all of us, that what we think is different about us or that we're not sure of. It's what makes us unique. For me to expose my vitiligo took me a lot of time to find comfort and safety and self-love, to say, you know what, enough nonsense. I'm me, and I've come into this world to share something beautiful. Not just vitiligo, a lot of stuff, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to shine. Let those naysayers exist. I give freedom to everyone to judge me. When you can say I give freedom to everybody to say what they want, you're free. The whole idea is to delayer all that conditioning. We have to take it off and become lighter and lighter and more within our presence and essence.
I like that. You said that I give freedom to everyone to judge me. And once you've said that to yourself, then what are you afraid of? What do you care what they say? Because you already said, yeah, say whatever you want about me.
I've got me.
Yeah.
I've got my back. I'm my best cheerleader. I'm my best, supporter.
You also talk about this water mindset.
Yes.
What is that?
So, water mindset, imagine water going over pebbles and rocks. How do they do that? If we're in a state of acceptance, say something bad has happened, but you have to first accept that it's happened. Then what next, right? So first we have to come into acceptance. That doesn't mean we condone something bad, but we have to accept and acknowledge, ye ho gaya, this has happened. Now, what next? So once you've accepted it, the resistance stops, the fighting stops. And then you take responsibility. Okay, now what are the next steps? So you become more solution oriented rather than being stuck in the problem.
You talk about fear a lot in your book, which is so important to address, because most of the time we hold ourselves back or we don't do something because we're just so afraid of failing.
Yes.
We're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of failing. So you say that fear is essentially ego-based. Why is that?
Well, look, fear is something, again, we are taught to fear. Okay? We are not taught to see it holistically or in perspective. Fear is ego-based because it's based on the past events. Okay, it's never in the present moment. It's based on something that you've experienced, maybe public speaking and your friends laughed at you, and that has been a fear-based thing. And the ego will come up to say, no, don't take another opportunity to speak in front of someone, because remember what happened to you? So you stay safe. That ego comes to protect you, but it also keeps you stagnant. Now, what I like to say is fear, like my mentor beautifully says it, Shri Ravi Shankarji, fear is like salt. You need a little. And I'll tell you why. I was in Hawaii doing a scuba dive. And my first dive, the instructor decided to take us 30 feet below, which is a lot for the first dive. And accidentally, I hit something on my life vest. I went catapulting up to the ocean, the surface, and my apparatus went on my face, and the layers of the waves went over my head. So I could barely get any breath. There was water going on my body. So what happened? The fear triggered. Now, either I used all my might, the adrenaline that I had, to swim to the boat, or I drowned. So I knew that if I wanted to live, I had to convert that fear into the strength, all of the strength my body had to swim, and I made it. So I realized that day that, if it wasn't for even a bit of fear, I would have just given up. But that fear gave me the power to move. So a little fear is okay because it keeps us in line, it keeps us in check and keeps life preserved.
Okay.
But too much fear is detrimental for us. It's like cortisol, it destroys all your organs and it keeps you in a trap of not moving forward. We have to have some faith. Talk to your fear. When you talk to your fear, you de-intensify it. You make it less intense because it's used to keeping you in a loop. But when you tell fear, hey, listen, you can be there, but sit in the back seat. I'm the one driving. When you talk to it, you remove that fear-based feeling from the event and you make it less and less.
How do you control your fear? Because fears tend to spiral out of control. And you have said that fear is the absence of faith and love. Also, the idea of fear is scarier than going through fear itself, which is very important.
Yes, Anushka, 85 to 90% of our fears, it's been researched, they do not even come true. So we paralyze ourselves with something that has not come alive yet. It's like a Gabbar Singh or a boogeyman, it's not there, but we think it's there. So fear of something from the past takes up space in the present moment. Fear of something in the future takes up space in the present moment. You are spoiling your present moment. And when your energy levels are low, you're not betting on yourself.
So many what ifs that come up and we can drive ourselves mad.
Yeah, you can't take a step forward. You stay where you are. You can stay stagnant. And that's the perils of fear. So we need to befriend it. I talk in my book about befriending fear. Don't make it so scary that you don't even want to, spell it. understand it has its value and understand where it can be harmful. But it's not to be rejected. It's not something you want to control. You want to redirect it.
Give us some techniques. How should we release our fears and how should we surrender?
So, like I said, talk to your fear. When you have a fear-based issue, whether it's, let's say it's water, you can't step into water. So, tell yourself that I'm going to sit by the bank. I'm not going to go inside, but I'm going to sit by the bank and I'm just going to get myself familiar with that environment. So, you just breathe deeply and you be there and you say, I'm safe right now. And slowly, bit by bit, when you talk to your fear and say, you know what, I'm making a declaration. I'm not going to be afraid of you. I'm going to work with you. And let's put it this way, Anushka, after doing 100% of whatever you've done, you've got to let go. So somewhere we have to have the faith that I put in my 100%, now let the divine do their work. Let God do his work, let the higher forces conspire for me. Yeah. Let life happen. Let life surprise me. And
you've said that meditation actually helps a lot in releasing fear-based thoughts because it shrinks the amygdala.
Yes. So typically when we're in fight and flight, very scared all the time, the amygdala becomes big and we don't use our prefrontal cortex. But when the amygdala reduces through meditation, our mind, we are shifting our attention to the prefrontal cortex, which expands, and also it's the logic. It's where we can rationalize. In the assumption trap, we can be in the present moment and say, but wait a minute, shouldn't I find out what's really happening rather than just being in fear mode and assuming the worst? So that's when the prefrontal lobe comes into context. Is that when you meditate, you are bringing your attention to the prefrontal cortex. So there's logic, there's analysis, there's rationalization. The other thing is when we're doing our meditation, we are tapping into the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from the top of our head to our diaphragm. It taps into inner safety and empathy. It creates the sense of feeling strong within, safe within, and empathy for others.
You relate a very interesting anecdote that happened to you in 2006 where you had back pain. This is again to do with surrender. What happened?
Gosh, like anyone else, I hurt myself in the gym. I was in bed rest completely. I could get up for 10 minutes. And that's it, and go back to sleep. So in my 10 minutes during the day when I took my break, I was reading a magazine and suddenly tears were falling down. And I said, I feel like my mentor is thinking of me. Didn't know. I said, if he needs, he'll call. And instantly the phone rang. Wow. And she said, I want you to, go to X place, Europe, and I want you to do so-and-so course. The other person didn't get his visa, so you have an American passport, you can go. I said, Guruji, small mind came into play right away. And I said, but Guruji, my back, I can't sit for 10 minutes. He said, no, don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. You go. He just said, main dekh lunga. That's it. That's it. And from that moment onwards, the pain was still there. I got my packing done by someone else. I got, and he told me I have to do a intense level course, 3-day high intensity course, and do a tour around Europe with dance and meditation, okay? With someone who can't move their back. So then anyway, then once he said it, and I said, that's it, I'm looked after. He is going to now help me. The force, the higher force, call it what you want. And I got to the airport, Anushka, the man at the counter insisted he give me a seat of his choice. The first time, again, my mind resisted and I said, no, what if I get a seat that doesn't recline and I'll be in, that was a small mind. And then I said, wait, I am going to serve the world. I am going for my guru. I am going to leave everything here and serve. I said, yes, I trust you. He said, no, do you fully trust me? He asked me 3 times. I said, yeah, I fully trust you. And I said, what's happening? And then he said, I'm putting you in business class. Wow. So I went lying down and I got there 9 hours later, very comfortable. And my host took cranial sacral therapy. So they revived my spinal fluids. And they said, you had no energy, Leena. So they revived it and I was able to teach from 5:30 in the morning till 10 at night for 3.5 days. And then I did about 6-7 places where I did dance and meditation. So I danced. I didn't have an iota of pain. Because energy can shift, blocks of pain is because somewhere the energy is restricted. Yeah. And through distant healing, energy can be lifted.
So once you believe that magic can happen, it can happen. But the more you believe that no, it can't happen for me, then you're possibly blocking that energy.
Yeah. And one of the biggest impediments we have, Anushka, in our lives is negative self-chatter. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to make that position. I'm not going to be chosen. That's our negative self-talk, and we make that a self-fulfilling prophecy. By telling ourselves, hence our actions reflect our thoughts, and then we make it our reality.
I just have a last couple of questions for you. One is, you obviously have a very positive mindset. But then, Leena, someone could look at you in your life. I know you, but someone who just looks at you, you know, you look glamorous, you've had all these opportunities, beauty queen. So someone can say, well, in her youth she had it easy, you know, she was a beauty queen, she was offered a Bollywood movie. I'm not like that, that's why I don't get things so easily. So what do you have to say to people like that? I know later in life then you did, you know, meet with challenges that you have to overcome. But what about when someone tells you, oh, but you know, you were this beauty queen, or, you know, you look great and that's why things have been easier for you, this, that. What would you say to someone like that?
I think look at life around you. Everybody has their mountain to climb and challenges. I don't think anybody is without challenges and setbacks and disappointments, heartaches, heartbreaks. We all go through it. Sometimes we don't, our demeanor doesn't show it, but we all have gone through it. And I think that mindset is very dangerous, that victim mindset, that why are only bad things happening to me. We have to get out of that victim mindset and come into a responsibility mindset. Because otherwise, when you say, someone did something to me, I'm the victim, that means there's a culprit out there. That means someone else is responsible for hurting me or making me feel that way. It's high time we took responsibility and say, you know what, whatever's happening to me is a reflection of my blueprint inside. Let's work on it now. It's a high time that we make you know, changes to the way we think and alter our state of mind, and everything that's happening, please take responsibility for it. I've taken that responsibility. It hasn't been easy, but I've taken that responsibility.
Okay, and that's how you probably dealt with, you know, when you developed the autoimmune condition. Now, it's probably how you dealt with it, not by blaming others. You didn't say, okay, so and so caused me so much emotional stress, that's why, you know, my immune system broke down. And
no, I see it, you know, I'm someone who believes in karma. So I believe that, okay, I had some debt I needed to pay, it's paid, I'm going through it, I'm not going to think about it. And that person who came to me, or the people who came to me that triggered me, were my teachers. They have come here to show me a lesson so I don't repeat it again in my life with anyone else or any situation. I take it as, I'm like a scientist. I think about me. What do I need to work on? What is life showing me? Rather than blaming, where I give my power away.
That's a very mature mindset, because if you know, one does have so much anger sometimes and resentment against people, but it takes some maturity to say, okay, maybe they were sent to teach me a lesson and this is some karmic debt that has to be paid. Lastly, if you could suggest one or two simple practices or sadhanas to help us anchor within, some simple daily or weekly practice, what would it be?
I think sit with yourself. I think it's very hard for people to sit with themselves quiet, because we've been told that sitting alone, being alone is like a punishment. It's like you're not wanted somewhere else. You know, I went to a movie once and someone said, why are you here alone? And I said, why not? I'm going to watch a movie. I'm not even going to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
I can be with myself. And actually I had a great time. I was seeing 4 weddings and a funeral and I laughed and enjoyed myself. And I said, wow, this is great. So don't fall into the trap of you have to have people with you all the time. Be in solitude, learn to be with yourself, take nature walks, exchange that energy with nature. It's very refreshing. You know, you get a chance to clear your thoughts. You get a chance to declutter your thoughts. How will you listen to your intuition if you're constantly talking? In our country, it's like, why are you going alone? You know, people say, why are you doing this alone? Why not? I've learned that the most beautiful person who's going to go with me for life and the most loyal one is me. So why not step into that queenology and kingology, you know, why not? Absolutely, you must. And then spend time with, when your relationship improves with yourself, you're so much nicer to be around. You know, your relationships improve, you have clarity, you have alignment, you have your standards, and your reference allows you to then behave that way with other people, the way you are with yourself. You are your first best relationship.
I like that. Improve your relationship with yourself, and then you're so much nicer to be around. Thank you. Thank you for all these wonderful lessons, Leena.
Thank you for having me.
All the best for your book.
Thank you so much.